So to do an example of area of a rectangle, let's look at number 9. It says how many square feet of sod are needed to cover a football field. Again, football field is rectangular. It's 360 feet by 160 feet. And we're not talking about the length of the outside now. We're talking about how much space is on the inside. That's where the sod would go, right? Okay, so here we're finding the area of a rectangle, not the perimeter. We know that that formula is length times width. We're given 360, which is the length. We're given 160, which is the width. So I've now written down the formula, area equals length times width. I've identified the variables, length is 360, W is 160. So let's plug it in. The area would be length, which is 360, times the width, which is 160. Multiply those two numbers together and let's see what you get. I'm getting a total of 57,600. Again, what would my units be? Well, it's whatever the unit of measure is feet, but it's squared. Because we did feet times feet, it would be feet squared. Okay? Anytime it's area, your answer has to be your units squared. So the answer here is 57,600 feet squared. Okay. Let's look at number 10. It says find the amount of fabric needed to make a rectangular flag that measures 308 centimeters by 192 centimeters. Again, we're dealing with a rectangle here. We have 308 centimeters for the length. We have 192 centimeters for the width. I'm going to go ahead and label those. I know that it's in terms of centimeters, and we're finding the amount of fabric, so we need to find what's the area of the inside. I know that I'm finding the area of a rectangle. I know that formula is length times width. And I know anytime I have area, it's going to be the units, which is centimeters, but then we need to square it. So I've identified the formula, I've identified the variables, I've labeled the answer. Let's actually plug it in now. Length is 308 times the width, which is 192. Plug that into your calculator, let's see what you get. I'm getting 59,136. Again, we have to label it, so that'd be centimeters squared. Again, that's 59,136 centimeters squared. Okay. So a rectangle's length times width. What about a square? Well, a square's length times width still, because a square is a rectangle, but it's a little different because the length and the width are the same. So you do have a little bit of a different formula for a square. The area of a square is presented by the formula A equals S squared. It's still length times width, don't worry. But they usually only give you the length of a side, so just take that number and square it. Let's look at example 11. A homeowner wants to carpet a family room. Again, I'm thinking carpet, so I'm thinking the inside of 2 dimensions. The floor is a square and measures 6 meters on each side. So I'm drawing my square. I have 6 meters on each side. Okay, that's the length of a side. How much carpet should be purchased? Again, this is because we want the area of the inside carpet. We're talking about the area of a square in this case. The area of a square would be the side, whatever the side is, squared. Okay, I know this is measured in meters, so I know my final answer has to be meters squared because it's area. So without it doing any math yet, I've identified the side length, I've identified the formula, and I've labeled my answer. Now I could go ahead and plug in the numbers. The area would be 6 squared, which is 36. Again, though, our unit, have to label our units, which in this case would be meters squared. So I'm getting 36 meters squared. Look at example 12 for me. It says find the area of a floor of a 2-car garage that is the shape of a square and measures 24 feet on one side. So we have a square. We have 24 feet is the length of a side. I've identified that. And it says it wants the area, so it wants the inside of the figure, right? So we're finding the area of a square. The area of a square is the length of the side squared. Again, this is in terms of feet, so that means my answers need to be feet squared. So before I've done any math, I've identified the variables, I've identified the formulas, and I've labeled my answer. Now let's go ahead and plug in the number. It's 24 squared. When we plug that into the calculator, I'm getting 576. Again, label your answer. That would be square feet. So let's write the final answer in the blank, 576 square feet.